On to SummerSlam in the 90s. These early ones might be a little rough, I'm not gonna lie. SummerSlam 1990 is a very odd show because it almost felt like they did the exact same stuff they did at WrestleMania 6, just scattered around and then just moved people around from spot to spot. There was some cool matches. There was one phenomenal tag team match, is one of the greatest tag team matches of all time. And then the double main event. This is when they started doing double main event. This was the precursor of the double main event name, but this felt very eh. I wasn't too high on it. I just want to move forward, but um, Power and Glory beat the Rockers. Yeah, the Rockers lost a lot in the 90s. You know, they're considered one of the greatest tag teams of all time. And yes, you could say that they never won the tag team belts, but they had some charisma. But eventually, down the road, we get a singles star in Shawn Michaels. So I guess we could say that. Mr. Perfect lost to the Texas Tornado, aka Kerry Von Erich. This match was actually solid. It was good to see the Texas Tornado win the IC belt. They clearly saw something in Kerry Von Erich. Is just that, you know, his drug use never pushed him to the potential that he could have had, and unfortunately, he does commit suicide 2 years from here. But yeah, I really do wish that Kerry Von Erich really took care of himself, and Mr. Perfect was awesome enough to put him over. That was at least great. So there was some goodness to this. It was only 5 minutes, but it was actually a pretty solid 5 minutes. Then we had one of the dumbest things ever. So Queen Sherry versus Sapphire, which never even happened because they're looking for Sapphire. Queen Sherry's just calling her out nonstop and never shows up. So winner via forfeit was Queen Sherry. Now at WrestleMania 5, it was Queen Sherry and the Macho King versus Dusty Rhodes and Sapphire. This time they just split the two matches up. We get Savage and Rhodes later on, but this was just I wasn't a big fan of, so it was pretty stupid. The Warlord defeated Tito Santana. They clearly saw something in the Warlord. This is about the time where they just wanted to build big, meaty men. And unfortunately, it buried a lot of the cool talents that he had, like such as Tito Santana and the Rockers. Um, but then we get the best match of the night, hands down. Demolition versus the Hart Foundation. Around this time, Demolition was the longest reigning tag team champions of all time until a New Day and the Usos break that record. But this was a phenomenal match. This was the first really good Bret the Hitman Hart SummerSlam match. People call Bret Hart Mr. SummerSlam, and this is a testament to how good he really was at SummerSlam. This was one of the greatest tag team matches of all time. And it wasn't Smash and Axe, it was actually Smash and Crush. They used the Freebird rule and they changed it up. And Crush was a very underrated talent. And this was a testament to how underrated he was. But at the end of the day, Axe and Smash were the more iconic. Demolition. And I was really a big fan of the back and forth with this tag team. You know, back in the day, tag teams meant the world to people, and this was a pretty good testament of it. And the Hart Foundation had one of the greatest tag team runs. Demolition, one of the most iconic tag team reigns of all time. This was an amazing match. You should go out of your way and go watch it. This is pure tag team. I like that tag teams like the Revival are revitalizing this type of tag team wrestling. So I'm very happy that we're slowly going back to this tradition in AEW at least. Jake Roberts beats Bad News Brown by DQ with special guest referee the Big Boss. And I, uh, how do you follow an amazing match like that with Jake Roberts and Bad News Browns? Two guys that I like, but this match was so nah. It gets worse. Jim Duggan and Nikolai Volkov versus the Orient Express. This was a very random tag team put together. Jim Duggan, the Ho, and Nikolai Volkov. This is so random put together, and it was probably the worst thing of the entire show. Probably. Moving on. Randy Savage and Dusty Rhodes had a match, a one-on-one match, which is the match that I thought we should have had at WrestleMania 5, but we forgot that Dusty Rhodes isn't the same Dusty Rhodes in WWF than he was in WCW, and this further proved it. Um, Fine match, but at this point I was over it and I was ready for Randy Savage to move on to other things, and hopefully Dusty Rhodes would have gone to WCW by this point. So, anyways, Savage. It's unfortunate that his time as the Macho King didn't really amount to nothing, but whatever. Then we get Hulk Hogan versus Earthquake. Now this could have gone down as one of the more entertaining matches. Around this time, Earthquake was built like a monster. Was basically built like the next beast of some sorts. Like I actually was very happy that they were pushing Earthquake around this time. And him not going for the WWF Championship, in hindsight, it does make sense because Warrior and Earthquake, that chemistry would have not bounced. At least Hogan would have made it entertaining. At least I could say that. But this one was just fine, and it ended in a countout. It was kind of lame. I just wasn't a big fan of it. Hulk Hogan still refuses to put people over, which kind of ruined this match. And I just wasn't high on this, and I kind of wish that we did get something better and more entertaining. Now we move on to your main event, steel cage match for the WWF Championship, Ultimate Warrior, Ravishing Rick Rude. Um, Back in the day, a steel cage match was escaping the cage. It wasn't about like, oh, how brutal can you get? You didn't have to pin or submit. It was literally just you had to escape the cage, otherwise you don't win. And it does kind of take you away from the match because if the whole purpose is to escape, you are not really wrestling. If I'm making sense, um, because the whole concept is trying to escape, and I feel like it limit both Warrior and Rude in the match, but it was still a fine match. But I it's not one that I really go back and watch. And there's a side of me that kind of wishes Rick Rude won. Now I am one of those people that was like, okay, not everybody needs to be the WWF champion, but Rick Rude was definitely one of those guys. Um, Rick Rude could have benefited from this, and then he could have had this long, lengthy run where eventually he could have actually been the one to drop the belt to Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 7, because Sergeant Slaughter's run, even though it was brief, it was a drag, especially with all the controversy that happened with that. At least with Rick Rude, he could pull out a classic out of Hulk Hogan, even if he was gonna lose. But you get what you get. And overall, this show I was just not a big fan of. There was one phenomenal tag team match that saved it from being a complete abomination of a show, which is why it shows getting a D plus. That's the highest it'll go. But yeah, I was very disappointed with this. And it sucks because there's a lot of great talent in here. It's just that they didn't know how to utilize everybody. 10 matches is a lot. But anyways, take care, everybody. 1991 should be better. And I'll see you on the next one.